The last time my parents looked me in the eyes as a child, my mother said, "We can't keep sacrificing your sister's future because of you." 10 minutes later, they drove away with my twin sister, leaving me on my grandmother's porch with one small suitcase and a stuffed rabbit. 23 years later, they showed up at my front door begging for forgiveness, but by then, they had already lost both daughters. My name is Emma. I'm 33 years old, and I spent most of my childhood believing I had been abandoned because I wasn't smart enough to deserve a family. I have an identical twin sister named Emily. We shared the same birthday, the same smile, and the same freckles. But according to everyone around us, that was where the similarities ended. Emily was brilliant. She could read chapter books before kindergarten. By third grade, she was solving algebra problems meant for teenagers. Teachers called her a once-in-a-generation genius. Newspapers interviewed her. Universities sent letters before she even reached high school. Whenever people visited our house, they always wanted to meet the little genius. They'd pat Emily on the head. Then they'd glance at me and ask, "And what are you good at?" I never knew how to answer. I wasn't failing school. I simply learned more slowly. Reading took me longer. Math gave me headaches. But I loved building things with my hands. I painted. I fixed broken toys. I could spend hours helping Grandpa repair old furniture. None of that impressed my parents. Dad compared every report card. Emily scored 99. You barely passed. Mom wasn't any kinder. You two have the same genes. So why can't you be more like your sister? I stopped talking at dinner. Anything I said somehow turned into another comparison. When I was 9, I overheard my parents arguing late one night. Dad sounded frustrated. "We're wasting too much time helping Emma." Mom answered quietly. "Emily needs every opportunity she can get." I didn't understand what they meant. The next morning, I found out. They packed my clothes into one suitcase. Mom avoided my eyes. "We've decided you'll stay with Grandma." "For how long?" She didn't answer. Dad simply loaded the car. Emily cried as she hugged me. "I don't want you to go." I whispered back, "Me neither." As the car disappeared down the road, I kept waiting for them to come back. They never did. Grandma became my entire world. She never once called me slow. When I struggled with homework, she'd smile. "Sweetheart, flowers don't all bloom on the same day." Those words stayed with me forever. She celebrated every little victory. When I learned to bake my first pie, she acted like I'd won an Olympic medal. When I earned a B in math after months of tutoring, she framed the report card. For the first time in my life, I felt enough. Meanwhile, my parents almost disappeared. They called twice a year. Sometimes not even that. Birthday cards stopped arriving after I turned 12. By high school, I stopped expecting anything from them. Grandma encouraged my creativity. She helped me enroll in art classes. Then interior design. Eventually, I opened my own home renovation business. People loved my work because I didn't just decorate houses. I made them feel like homes. Business exploded. By 30, I owned a successful design company with dozens of employees. Every achievement belonged as much to Grandma as it did to me. Then she passed away peacefully in her sleep. Losing her hurt more than being abandoned ever had. A month after the funeral, someone knocked on my office door. My assistant looked uncomfortable. "Emma, your parents are here." For a moment, I honestly didn't recognize them. They looked older. Smaller. Mom burst into tears the second she saw me. "You're beautiful." I folded my arms. "What do you want?" Dad lowered his head. "It's about Emily." My stomach tightened. What happened? Mom started crying harder. "She's gone." The room spun. "What do you mean?" Dad explained that Emily had disappeared nearly 8 months earlier. No phone calls. No emails. She had simply walked away. Police couldn't find her. They had searched everywhere. Finally, someone suggested she might try contacting me. I almost laughed. Why would she? Mom whispered, because she always loved you. Those words stayed with me long after they left. That night, I couldn't sleep. Despite everything, Emily was still my sister. The next morning, I hired a private investigator. 3 weeks later, he called. I found her. My heart raced. Is she okay? She's alive. He handed me an address in a quiet mountain town. I drove there alone. When I knocked on the small cabin door, a woman opened it. For a second, it felt like looking into a mirror. Emily froze. Emma? Neither of us spoke. Then she threw her arms around me and sobbed. I'm so sorry. I hugged her just as tightly. For what? She cried even harder. For letting them take you. We spent hours talking. Then she told me everything. After I left, our parents' obsession with her became unbearable. Every grade had to be perfect. Every competition had to be won. Every mistake became a disaster. They didn't love me. She whispered. They loved being parents of a genius. By 17, she suffered panic attacks. By 25, she couldn't sleep without medication. They planned every hour of my life. She smiled sadly. You know what I was jealous of? I stared at her. You. I laughed through tears. You've got to be kidding. No. She shook her head. You had Grandma. You had someone who loved you without conditions. For years, I believed Emily had stolen my parents. She believed I'd been the lucky one. Neither of us had known the other's pain. Then she handed me a small wooden box. I've kept something for you. Inside were birthday cards. Christmas letters. Tiny gifts. Every year since I left. My eyes filled with tears. I never got these. I know. She looked away. I mailed every one. Confused, I examined the envelopes. Every single one had been opened. Then resealed. The return address had been crossed out. At the bottom of one envelope was my mother's handwriting. Do not send. My hand started shaking. Our parents hadn't just abandoned me. They had secretly intercepted every letter my sister tried to send. For 23 years. Emily started crying. I thought you hated me. I thought you forgot me. We both broke down. Our parents hadn't only separated us physically. They had stolen our relationship. I wanted answers. Emily agreed. Together, we invited our parents to Grandma's old house. They arrived believing we'd finally forgiven them. Instead, we placed 23 unopened birthday cards across the dining table. Mom looked at them and immediately turned pale. Dad couldn't even breathe. Emily spoke first. Why? Neither of them answered. I picked up the first card. I was 10 when she wrote this. Then another. I was 16. Then another. I was 21. Every card represented another year we'd lost. Mom finally collapsed into a chair. We thought it was better. For who? Emily asked quietly. Dad buried his face in his hands. We were afraid you'd distract each other. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So you destroyed our relationship? Dad whispered. We convinced ourselves it was necessary. Emily stood. You abandoned one daughter. She looked at me. And imprisoned the other. The silence became unbearable. Then came the biggest twist of all. Grandma's attorney arrived. Before her death, Grandma had left one final letter for both of us. The lawyer handed it to Emily. She opened it with trembling hands. Grandma's familiar handwriting filled the page. My precious girls. If you're reading this together, then my greatest wish has finally come true. Emma, never believe you were left behind because you weren't enough. Emily, never believe you were loved because you were extraordinary. The truth is much sadder. Your parents became so afraid of losing one child's potential that they forgot the greatest gift they already had. Two daughters who loved each other. Please don't waste another day letting their mistakes define your future. Build the family they never knew how to protect. Neither of us could stop crying. Mom reached toward us. I'm sorry. Emily stepped back. So am I. Dad whispered. Can you ever forgive us? I answered honestly. Maybe. He looked hopeful. But forgiveness isn't the same as trust. Months later, Emily moved back to the city. Not with our parents. With me. We renovated Grandma's old house together. She finally left the career our parents had forced on her and became a science teacher because she genuinely loved helping children learn. I continued growing my design business. Every Sunday evening, we'd cook dinner together and laugh about silly childhood memories we'd almost forgotten. As for our parents, we didn't cut them out completely. But we stopped allowing them to rewrite history. Whenever they tried saying they had done their best, Emily would quietly reply, "No. You did what was easiest for yourselves." Those words always ended the conversation. One spring afternoon, while planting flowers in Grandma's garden, Emily looked at me and smiled. You know. What? I spent my whole life trying to be the smartest person in every room. She reached over and squeezed my hand. But you were always the strongest. I smiled through tears. No. I looked at the blooming flowers Grandma once loved so much. We survived because we finally found each other again. My parents abandoned me because they believed one daughter's intelligence mattered more than the other's heart. In the end, they lost us both. And the family they tried to separate became the family that finally healed together.